Welcome to the third and final part of the Legacy Calculator.
I'm Linus Turnquist.
And I'm William Turnquist.
We have designed a system to determine how great a legacy any given player left on the NBA by assigning a value to achievements and stats, taking opinion out of it entirely. Here are the scores we assign to the different kinds of NBA achievements.
If you want a more detailed explanation of how the scoring works, go to part 1 where we explain it in more detail. Part 1, we also talk about the score of some of today's brightest stars. Part 2, we talk about the way the calculator scores bench players. And here we are at Part 3, the top 10 players of all time.
We wanted to start off this list by recognizing the only 2 players that hit a score of at least 2,000 and not make the top 10.
Coming in at number 12, we have the mailman, Karl Malone, with a score of 2,031. He owns the record of most All-Star appearances without winning a title with 14. He made the finals twice, losing to Michael Jordan both times. He is second on the all-time scoring list, and he averaged 25 and 10 over 19 seasons. His dependability might be the most incredible thing about him. Through his first 18 seasons, he only missed 10 games. But when you're competing with the best of the best, you have to be great in close to all these categories, and where he falls short is championships. He won 0. With that blemish on your record, it's going to hurt his score compared to the players above him.
At number 11, we have Larry Bird with a score of 2,127. Larry Bird is an all-time great and one of the most iconic players of all time, with his epic stories of trash-talking and his famous rivalry versus Magic Johnson and the Lakers. Unfortunately, there is no way to numerically quantify trash-talking and rivalries, so he doesn't get credit for his unforgettable persona. He is still obviously an amazing player by the numbers, as surpassing the 2000 club is a very impressive feat. He was great in all the important categories: 3 finals victories, 2 finals MVPs, 3 league MVPs, 9 NBA first-team appearances, 24 and 10 average. Unfortunately for him, there is no category where he stands out above all the other players. To make the top 10 list, you have to be great in almost all the categories and better than great in at least 1 or 2. Larry Bird is a legend, hence the nickname Larry Legend, but just like Karl Malone, everyone else above him is a legend as well.
To start off our top 10 list, we have Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon with a score of 2,237. He was one of the greatest defensive players of all time, averaging a ridiculous 1.7 steals and 3.1 blocks. He had 9 appearances on all defensive teams and won 2 Defensive Players of the Year awards. He has the most blocks in league history at 3,830, and no center has ever recorded as many steals as he did with 2,162 steals throughout his memorable career. He wasn't only a legendary defender though, he was a legendary player all around. He won 2 finals and lost in the finals once as well, but he didn't have much help. He's the only player besides Michael Jordan to win multiple finals as the only All-Star. He took home 2 finals MVPs and 1 league MVP. He made the All-Star game 12 times, racked up 12 All-NBA appearances, 6 of which were on the first team. He averaged 22 and 11, and his career totals section got him a lot of points as well because of how long he played at a high level. One of the most underappreciated players of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon is a legend on defense and all around, playing at an exceptional level for 18 seasons and getting a very high score on our calculator.
At number 9, we have Magic Johnson with a score of 2,326. Another extremely skilled icon who led the production for the famous Showtime Lakers. He made 9 finals and won 5 of them. He won 3 finals MVPs and 3 league MVPs. He became the only rookie to ever win the NBA Finals MVP when he helped lead the Lakers to a title in 1980. He made the All-Star game 12 times and had 9 All-NBA first-team appearances. He also averaged nearly 20 points and holds the NBA record for assists per game at 11.2. Sadly, he had to retire early because of his contraction of HIV. Due to his early retirement, his career totals are subpar compared to everyone else on this list. Before his sudden retirement, he was on pace to be in the conversation for the greatest player of all time. What if Magic never retired early? Will remain a famous NBA what if for decades, but we should appreciate how legendary his career was regardless.
For the number 8 spot, we have none other than Kazam himself, Shaquille O'Neal. He got a score of 2,429. If we had an entertainment category, there's a good chance he'd get the highest score. He was a highlight machine, he dances, he broke backboards, he's an actor. He's one of those players that even your friends that don't care about basketball know. Fame doesn't get you points though, but in terms of legacy calculator, he pretty much checks every box. He won 4 championships, winning Finals MVP twice, and regular season MVP once. He made the All-Star game 15 times, including being first team All-NBA 8 times. He was great from the start as he made the All-Star team his rookie year, and he also had amazing per-game stats with 24 and 11. He's 8th on the all-time scoring list, so that's phenomenal. Plus, he went to the finals with 3 different teams. The only issue is on some of the categories, he doesn't check the boxes enough times. Like, he's made all defensive teams, but it was only the second team 3 times. As an NBA player, that's not a problem. As an NBA legend, it is.
Our 7th greatest player of all time is Wilt Chamberlain with a score of 2,516. He is easily the most dominant player ever statistically, as he averaged 30 and 23 throughout his career, and averaged a record 50.4 points per game and 27.2 rebounds in one season. He holds the iconic points in a game record at 100 and the record for rebounds in a game at 55. He also has the most rebounds in NBA history at 23,924. His awards and accolades are also good, but they aren't record-breaking like his other stats. He won 2 championships and was a 13-time All-Star. He made the All-NBA first team 7 times in his 14 seasons of playing. Wilt also managed to win 4 NBA MVP awards. It is widely believed that Wilt played in an era where there was less competition, thus inflating his stats. This is accounted for in the legacy calculator because many stats which give modern players points weren't consistently recorded in his time. There was no Defensive Player of the Year, less All-NBA teams. Blocks weren't consistently recorded, steals weren't recorded at all, and Finals MVPs only became an award late in his career. Because of this, his weaker era is automatically accounted for by the weaker stat tracking. You could not be better statistically than Wilt Chamberlain, but players have been better accolade-wise. Not all of the current awards and stats were recorded during his era, limiting his score. Regardless, he proved to be one of the greatest players of all time.
Number 6. Bill Russell. His score is 2,740. People always compare Russell and Wilt, but in our system, Russell is better. He wasn't the best scorer in the league, even for his time. That one goes to Chamberlain. What he was the best at was winning. We all talk about his mind-boggling 11 championships. What shocked me was he only played 13 seasons. Plus, he lost in the finals, so that means he only missed the finals 1 time. His per-game stats were weird to look at. I had to double-check to make sure we entered them correctly because they are 15 points, 22 rebounds. Today, that stat line for a game would be all over social media. Imagine that for a season, or for a career. He made 12 All-Star games. Surprisingly though, he only made the first team All-NBA 3 times. He made the second team 8 times. He was often replaced on the first team by Wilt Chamberlain, but he won 5 MVPs, 1 more time than Wilt. He was definitely a unique case, but like Wilt, he played before a lot of rewards and stats were recorded. But as some say, it was a weaker era, so it seems to overall even out for their score. The best example of this is that Finals MVPs weren't rewarded during his championship seasons, and winning a lot of Finals MVPs would have vaulted his score significantly. Rarely do people put him in the GOAT conversation because of how long ago he played, but what must frustrate him is he had no control over that, and he was about as good as you could possibly be for his time period.
To start off our top 5, we have the late great Kobe Bryant with a score of 2,826. He will forever be a legend for his amazing work ethic and unguardable play style. He won 5 NBA Finals with the Lakers and had only 1 other All-Star by his side for each championship. He only won 1 NBA MVP, but he took home 2 Finals MVPs. He made the All-Star game a whopping 18 times and the All-NBA First Team 11 times. He made the All-Defense Squad 12 times, 9 of which were first-team selections. Throughout his career, he poured in 25 points per game and is the 4th highest player on the NBA all-time scoring list, with over 33,000 points. He had some of the greatest single-game performances in NBA history as he scored an iconic 81 points versus the Raptors and scored 60 points in his career finale versus the Jazz. He could have increased his legacy score during his career by winning more MVPs and Finals MVPs, but in almost every category, he scores very well and proves that he is one of the greatest players of all time. The man who was drafted as a 17-year-old and scored more points wearing purple and gold than any other player will always be remembered for his legendary performances and inspirational Mamba mentality.
Number 4 might be the most underrated player in NBA history. It's Tim Duncan with a score of 2,919. The big fundamental is often forgotten when talking about the greatest players to ever play basketball. It's because his highlight reel is less exciting than someone like Russell Westbrook's because he always made the smart play and never sacrificed anything to make a highlight. Despite the Spurs' reputation, he never had more than 1 All-Star helping him to win a championship. He won 1 Finals as the only All-Star, 3 with 1 All-Star teammate, and 1 where he missed the All-Star game that year, so his score got penalized for that. He only lost in the Finals once thanks to the Miami Heat. Timmy D won back-to-back regular season MVPs and 3 Finals MVPs. He played in 15 All-Star games and was first-team All-NBA 10 times, but his 15 All-Defensive Team appearances might be more impressive. He was first team all defense 8 times and second team 7 times. For his career, he finished 6th in all-time rebounds, so that's awesome. His per-game stats were 19 and 11, so that's pretty good. He is one of only 5 players to block 3,000 shots, so that's amazing. At this point on the top 10 list, players don't have weaknesses, they just have less strengths than the ones above them.
At number 3, we have our first player in the 3000 Club. This is where players seriously become contenders for the greatest player of all time. Our first player in the 3000 Club and our third greatest player of all time is LeBron James with a score of 3,158. LeBron has achieved this lofty score by a combination of longevity, statistics, awards, and championships. He has won 4 finals and won all 4 of those finals MVPs. He even dethroned the 73-win Golden State Warriors in 2016 as the only All-Star. He has fallen just short and lost in the NBA Finals 6 times. He has won the NBA MVP 4 times and won the Rookie of the Year award in 2003. He is a 16-time NBA All-Star and is a 13-time All-NBA first-teamer. Incredible. He has made the All-Defense first team 5 times as well. His per-game stats are elite as he's averaged 27, 7, and 7 throughout his career. He has played at the highest level for 18 seasons, so naturally he has some of the best career totals on this list. He is 3rd on the NBA all-time scoring list and 8th on the all-time assist leaderboard. LeBron could really only have improved his score so far, but winning more of the finals he participated in. His greatness is shown clearly by the way he elevated the teams he played for. He is the only player to be a finals MVP with 3 different teams, and he dragged a very bad supporting cast to the finals in multiple seasons. When he was drafted by the Cavaliers in 2003, they were the worst team in the league. He dragged that team to the NBA Finals in 2007. Then, when he left in 2010, they fell back to the worst team in the league right away. He is the only player in the top 10 who is still active, and he still has time to try to move into the number 1 spot. It would be hard for him to catch the number 1 spot, but it is certainly possible for him to do. Regardless of what he does in the next few years, he is certainly one of the greatest players to ever play the game and has placed himself firmly in the GOAT conversation.
Here comes the shocker. The second highest score on the Legacy calculator is 3,333. That score goes to none other than Michael Jordan. I think this score is very fitting because of his 2 three-peats. But seriously, you guys know how good he was. He was a freak athlete, he had the clamps on defense, and he's probably the most skilled player ever. When you give that skill set to possibly the hardest worker in NBA history, the results are going to be spectacular. He won 2 finals without another All-Star on his team, and his 4 other championships, he had 1 All-Star teammate. That means 6 finals total, and he won 6 finals MVPs to go along with that. He also won 5 regular season MVPs. He was on the first All-NBA team 10 times, and on the first All-Defensive team 9 times. He also won a Defensive Player of the Year, and what's also amazing is Jordan played in the 90s and Wilt played in the 60s, and they both averaged exactly 30.1 points per game. Perhaps it was his fierce competitiveness that was behind all these achievements, though. He once lost in a casual ping pong tournament to Christian Leitner. He threw his paddle, then didn't talk to anyone for 2 days. After those 2 days, he demanded a rematch and won 21-4. Turns out he ordered a ping pong table up to his hotel room to practice. In fact, I think he is so competitive that if he ever saw this video, he'd hate that I have this story in here. Not because it makes him look like a jerk, but because people will find out that he lost the ping pong game. He wasn't perfect though. He has one glaring weakness that some of his counterparts beat him at: longevity. Part of this flaw comes from early retirement, as he missed 3 seasons because of that. One of them was minor league baseball though, which we're all still wondering why he did that. Even if he played those missing seasons though, I don't think he would have held up as well as LeBron or the number 1 player. Either way, MJ was close to perfect both on offense and on defense. He's probably the most skilled basketball player to ever walk the earth.
And finally, we have the player who achieved more during his career than any other player. Our greatest player of all time. He recorded a huge score of 3,520. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He isn't often talked about as the greatest of all time, but if you do what we did and determine greatness objectively, it has to be Kareem. He had the greatest accolades ever. He holds the record for the most points in NBA history at 38,387. He made the NBA All-Star Game more than any other player with 19 appearances. He won the most MVPs ever with 6. Achievement-wise, he is a combination of the best of every player. He has won the same amount of titles as MJ with 6, but made it 10 times like LeBron. He has made the All-NBA first team the same amount as Jordan with 10. His career total section brings him an insane amount of points, as he played more games than any other player on this list, and only Robert Parrish has played more games all time.
Besides the achievements we've already talked about, he's won 2 Finals MVPs, made an All-Defensive team 11 times, and averaged 24 points per game, 2.6 blocks, and 11 rebounds. So it wasn't like he was slowing down at the end of his career either. He is third all-time in both career rebounds and blocks. He had his number retired by both the Bucks and the Lakers. He was known on the court for his patented skyhook, possibly the most iconic signature move of all time of any player. He's not always considered the GOAT because he didn't have to single-handedly will his team to victory like LeBron. He didn't have the highlights like Kobe or MJ, and he didn't have the trash-talking stories like Larry. But those things are all subjective. The whole point of this calculator is to determine who is the greatest of all time using only what is concrete. Kareem is the champion of that. He played for 20 years at a high level, won tons of rings, scored more than anyone else, secured tons of rebounds, won more MVPs than anyone else, made the most All-Star games, and made tons of All-NBA teams. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had the greatest career in NBA history.
This has been the top 10 players of all time from the NBA We Are the Fans Legacy Calculator.
This was inspired because we were tired of having the same conversation over and over again about who was the GOAT. So we decided to put everyone on the same playing field, and we couldn't have anticipated what this would become.
We now have a system to compare any and all NBA players from any time period.
Drop in the comments the players you want us to score next.
Thank you for watching and have a great day.